and go on from Dragon Ball Z, and you're listening to the Monsters with Attitude podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, embrace the attitude! Yeah!
Hi, this is Alan Henry. I play King Kong and Scar King in the Monsterverse, and you're listening to the Monsters with Attitude podcast. So, like, comment, and subscribe, and remember, embrace the attitude, yeah!
Hi there, I'm David Fielding, and I played the original Zordon in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Alpha, Rita and Lord Zed have returned. Their attack on Angel Grove is imminent. We must summon the greatest fighting force the world has ever seen. Call the Monsters with Attitude. The only way to defeat them is by subscribing to all their social medias. May the power protect you. And if all else fails, embrace the attitude.
What's going on, Monsters with Attitude? We are back again, the dynamic duo. Joined with me, well, first off, I am Joe. Joined with me, as always, is my brother from another mother, Mr. Eric Stolp. It's like stop with an L. He is the bearded kaiju himself. Eric, thank you for joining me. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, of course. And yeah, we were back again together, and we're gonna do the fusion, and we'll make Gogeta or something like that. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm excited. We got a great guest today, and can't wait to dive right into it.
Yes, we've talked to people on this podcast like David Fielding, Zordon, Stephanie O'Donnell, Goku, and Gohan, who we've kind of considered, amongst others, but who we've kind of considered like the voices in a way of our childhood. I think this man is responsible for the music of our childhood and the sound of our childhood. One of the, I mean, for lack of a better word, an iconic composer for sure. When you think of intro or theme music for TV shows, Seinfeld, you know what that is without even seeing it. Roseanne, Power Rangers, X-Men, and so this is so exciting. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest, Mr. Ron Wasserman. Ron, how are you?
Good. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your very busy schedule to answer some questions. Yeah. So we're going to jump right into it because I know you are on a deadline and we have a lot that we would like to get to. So without further ado, I'm going to ask the kind of icebreaker question that I always do, or that we always do. Prior to Power Rangers, were you aware of Tokusatsu, Sentai? Did you kind of grow up with it? Watching anything? Not a clue.
When that stuff was out, I was in 80s bands and, kind of up and coming doing that. So I'm not even sure I owned a television at that point in my life. But even if I did, I just wasn't watching anything like that or reading comic books. Not a thing.
Really? So like no Godzilla, no X-Men, no nothing.
I used to watch Godzilla movies as a kid just to kind of see their voices out of sync.
Right.
Yes. That was always fun.
Yes. That's great. That's so fascinating. I feel like most of our guests have been at least aware, and honestly, I would say it's probably 50-50, maybe a little bit more, where they're like, oh yeah, I loved it, I watched everything, or they're like, I didn't have a clue. I didn't become a fan of it until I started getting paychecks from it. So that's great.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's just dive right into it and everything. So let's give us some of your backstory on, your upbringing, how you got into your career and everything like, or how you wanted to know you wanted to go into like the music business, stuff like give us kind of a rundown of that.
Well, I started playing when I was 3 and writing when I was 5.5. And I just kind of never ever thought of it as a career at all. It was just something I loved to do, and nobody in the family did anything or knew anybody or was associated with it in any kind of way, shape, or form. So, but I loved playing piano. So I would cut school, for weeks at a time, but they knew where I was. I was in the auditorium always playing. But I thought maybe I'll go into photography because I'm really not, I don't even think I could have got into a good college coming out of high school, even though so I ended up going to a place called California Institute of the Arts for a year and a half, which was run by Disney for photography. And in that year and a half, I discovered, well, first of all, they asked me, why aren't you doing music? You're sitting in the ballet studio playing all day. And secondly, I could tell by my photographic abilities that I probably wasn't going to have a very successful career. I was good, but there were people there that were exceptional. Yeah. So I kind of left that. Then I went to university. So California Institute of the Arts, kind of grad school. So I went grad school. Then I went to university, took some business, tried to take music, got thrown out of the music program because I just didn't conform. And then I went to junior college, took music and acting. Acting I did great in. Music again, I was asked to leave. I was failing. So after that, I said, well, I don't really like being in front of a camera at all, so acting's off. I think I'll just try to survive and maybe get a newspaper. There was a newspaper called The Recycler in the San Fernando Valley, just outside of Los Angeles, and started joining bands. And then once I started playing with other people, I started writing more with the band in mind, and then kind of sort of taking over those projects to a degree. And then, so I was in a bunch of bands. We always did really well, but never got that elusive record deal. Yeah. And the very last one I had been in for 5-6 years, that one ended. And then just as that was ending, this gal, E.G. Daly, who was in Pee Wee Herman's film, she was Pee Wee Herman's girlfriend. And she's the voice of Tommy on Rugrats.
Yes, yes.
So she had a record deal with A&M Records and said, do you want to come play? And I went, sure. So then I'm in her band, and it was a great band because he wasn't in Guns N' Roses yet, but it's Matt Sorum on drums from Guns N' Roses, Matt Bissonette on bass, who went on to spend God knows how many decades with Elton John. I can't remember who the guitar player was. And it was going great. We were going to go tour the world with her hit song, and then whatever happened, and the record company dropped her. And so back on the street and a lot of credit card debt. So I started working with a lot of songwriters, producing them. I had already known how to engineer stuff at that point, so I was mixing. And then one day in '89, a friend of mine called and said, hey, we don't have an engineer tonight for our composer at Saban Entertainment. And will you come in? And so it's a career I never thought about at all, but the other stuff wasn't working out. And I was in enormous credit card debt and nearly homeless at some point. Yeah. So I found out that the guy would do 3 1-minute bits of music, and he got $450 for it, 150 each. And I went, I think maybe I should shift away from the band focus here.
Yeah.
So they hired me part-time at first, but I just parked my ass in that place and lived there. Every moment somebody was in the studio, just writing. I had other friends with studios. I worked there. And I would submit stuff, and they would always say, too fast, too harsh. Kids don't want that kind of stuff. And then in '92, X-Men came in, which was, it was a long process, about 2 weeks on that theme. And all of a sudden, fast and hard was good.
Yeah.
I love that. So you said you started playing at 3?
Yeah.
Did I hear that correctly? So was your first instrument a piano?
It's the only thing I play. I mean, I played clarinet and drums in school, but, no, every bit, all that guitar work, everything except some of the solos is all done on a keyboard.
So I had actually heard, well, I'll get to that later. Sorry.
Right.
I'll totally be jumping all around. And then you said you were reading music at 5.
Writing. I never really read well.
Writing.
I can listen and read. I can't read and play, and I can't write it.
Wow.
So I was writing, meaning I was composing. I should have made that clear. So
how exactly did you figure out that you could write it that early?
I just started writing little songs all the time. Just melodies were already popping out of my head. You know, my mom had told me that when I was even in the crib, I didn't sleep with stuffed animals. I always was holding a 45 RPM record, and I didn't believe her. And I found a picture of myself standing with my cousins, and I'm holding a 45.
Oh my goodness.
So I had a thing for just absorbing and finding a way to, thank God, or, you know, I'd be that guy at Home Depot that sends you to the wrong aisle just to piss you off.
I love that. So was your first actual paid gig in music with Saban then?
No, I mean, I was making a couple $100 here and there, and, you know, do live gigs and make $100, but I was working mainly. I did have one music job that was really good, working with it was a system owned by a company called Marantz, which Yamaha bought for these. Essentially, it's a player piano, but it was done with computers. So I got to work with some amazing jazz people and these great classical people. And the way I got the gig, they wanted you to have a degree in music. So I lied about that. And then went in, you listened, and there was 2 mistakes in this very fast classical piano piece. And I just followed along, marked off where the 2 were, but I found a 3rd one that they missed. So they gave me the job on the spot. Wow. And I was there. That was like a year and a half. So that was my first paying music gig. Probably 1984, 85.
Wow.
And then back to starvation.
Well, it sounds like music and you doing music and that kind of journey in your life. Like, it seems like you were made for that, but like it just didn't work out for you the way you really wanted it and everything. But like, it seems like the forces that be were just pushing you down that, like, you have to keep doing this and stuff like
Absolutely.
that, because it's just kind of dropping in.
No, I was totally at certain points. I'm like, I'm sure I'll be in a big band by 22. I'll probably retire at 29. It just didn't go that way, which is fine.
Yeah.
I love that.
So how would you describe like your style of music? You know, what differentiates yours from like somebody else's? Because I mean, obviously your stuff that you've done, especially in the 90s, obviously for X-Men, Power Rangers, it as Joe said at the beginning of the show, like, you just know that theme immediately and stuff like that. Like, why is yours so different than everybody else's?
Because most guys who score movies or television, can't write a melody to save their lives. And if they do, you can always tell when the composer of a film was asked to write a song for a film, and you're listening to it just going, where is this? There's no hook. There's no gimmick. Where the hell is this going? But I, always been writing these short little songs and was always great at getting these short, memorable phrases. So I'm incredibly strong with melody. So I think that's what separates and worked out very well for me. I was just able to transform it into things like X-Men and whatnot, because I hear it in my head pretty quickly, and then I just have to figure out how to get it out of my head and onto now a computer, back then on tape.
Yeah. So what is that process? Like, how do you get it out of your head? Like, you just push record on tape deck and you just recorded it, kind of that? Or like nowadays you just put in your piano and it with a computer just kind of takes everything down? Like, how do you do that?
Well, now I just record the idea into a phone as soon as it's in my head, which doesn't always really work out, because it does, but I'll listen to it the next day. Say like, what? I was in the car. I have no idea what I was saying. And if I'm in a public place, I'm very shy with doing the music thing. I can talk to anybody, but so I'll be in a restaurant going, And then I listen back the next day. Cool. But I used to have little digital recorders everywhere, in the car, all over the house, so I could grab one. Now, I always have my phone with me, and if I'm home, I'll run down to the grand piano and just play it into the phone, and then again try and figure out what was going through my head. But it comes back to me. But that's what I've always done, and I've gone from having handheld cassette recorders to micro cassette to anything that would record. So I have a box full of old digital recorders just sitting around.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
You mentioned that you only play piano and keyboard. This is mildly off topic, Eric. I apologize, but I think that's a huge misconception that a lot of the fans, unless you're a diehard fan, myself included, like I was not aware of this until just a few years ago. I thought like the Power Rangers was some like guitar riff. And
it is. It's just not done on a guitar. I mean,
right.
It's fooled everybody. When I did end up getting signed in '99 to Universal with my ex-wife, a great singer, Eddie Van Halen was married to Valerie Bertinelli. Valerie became a big fan of the band and invited us up to the house because she put one of our songs in one of her movie of the week. And so that started a very interesting 2 or 3 month hanging out with Eddie Van Halen a lot. But he handed me a guitar once. He said, I had to learn this fucking thing for Woofy when he was a kid. Show me how you played it. And I just walked over to his piano and played it. And he said, no shit. I go, yeah, absolutely. All done there. He goes, I thought it was real. He goes, but I could not figure out how you played it. I said, well, now you know.
That's
so cool.
It blew my mind.
So cool.
Actually, I think it was the Power Trip podcast that you were on a couple of years ago when you had said that, and I was like, holy shit. I thought it was a guitar, but I'm also really stupid when it comes to music. I love listening to it, but as far as playing, I'm like, not very good. So
yeah, it was, I had already been working on that sound for God knows what shows came in or things they wanted music for prior to that. So I went into a synth and I kind of tweaked a dead dry guitar patch and then ran it through a rack mounting, meaning it's mounted, it's 19 inches wide, like 2 inches, and a guitar amp simulator. So it wasn't even a real guitar amp either.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So being friends, I guess, or acquaintances, whatever you want to call it, with Eddie Van Halen, is that part of the reason why? Did you work on the Power Rangers the movie soundtrack? Is that why Van Halen had a song on there, or
no? I actually I was going to do the film. 20th Century Fox. I had a bunch of meetings there. They were thrilled. They were sending me the dailies, meaning rough cuts of what they shot. We were going to keep it just like the show. I scored it. They loved it. And then Saban, and this happens frequently. He went to them and said, Wasserman's name can't be on the credits because my partner and I own all that. We put our name on everything. And 20th Century said, we don't do that. And so I was taken off the film. I didn't even get to go to the recording when they were going to re-record the theme, because again, Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses was going to play on it. I said, hey, I just want to go and say hi to Matt. And they said, oh yeah, absolutely. And then a few weeks later, I said, when do you do it? And they go, oh, it was last week. Forgot to tell you. So
that's actually a great segue. I'm going to ask this first, Eric. You know what's coming. So, talk to us about working with Saban.
He didn't lie. He didn't bullshit you in any way. He said, here's the deal. Take it or leave it. And, he knew damn good and well I was going to end up leaving at a certain point because he wasn't going to give up any rights. Later he did, but he wasn't going to give them up. And that's ultimately, losing the film. Plus I was exhausted and I was doing so much for them. So I just asked for 1/3 writers on everything I would do, not retroactive. he said no, and I said, I'm going to leave. And I left.
Wow.
It was that simple, but he was never an asshole. He was always, he's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people hate him and hate the company and think what he did was wrong. Well, yeah, I think it's wrong that, I don't think it's wrong. I mean, Hans Zimmer has 10 composers working on all these films that he does. Now he's involved with it more than Haim is. Haim's not a music guy really, but that's how you get in the business. And if you do really well there, you go on and you have your career. So, and I would never, and I've had lawyers contact me and other people, let's go after him. We could do this, we could do that, because frankly, there was the one sheet that they would have me sign, the little 2-paragraph thing, is just a useless document. Yeah. Surrendering my rights. But I would never go back on my word, ever.
Well, that's really respectable of you, that you won't go after your word. It seems that would you say that you don't consider it negative? Because I know there's a lot of the cast and crew left and they do not speak very highly of Saban, of Haim Saban. And
it's because that was different. I mean, first of all, I knew Power Rangers was big. I didn't even know if X-Men ever aired. I mean, they kept sending shows, so I thought it did. So I'm just locked in the studio because I'm in a room working alone at that time at their place and starting to gather gear at home to work. But I'm always in a room. I'm not watching TV. I'm not meeting a ton of people. I'm not that aware of what's going on in the world.
Right.
So, but those, the actors, they weren't getting paid well.
No.
And they can't go anywhere. They're so unbelievably famous, and everywhere they go, there's toys and their pictures on everything, and they're not getting any part of it. So that would screw with your head in a whole different way.
For sure. I can understand both aspects, kind of like how you said, he wasn't an asshole. He was upfront and honest, and he said, hey, I'm going to pay you this much, and he paid you that much. You didn't get any extra, you didn't get any less, but that's what you got. And I can understand that. It's tough because I do see both sides, where especially in the actors' cases, when they're like, hey, we were paid $600 a week and we made him a billionaire within the first season. Like, do you think maybe you could increase our pay a little bit so we could afford to buy a house and support a family or whatever? So
yeah, and I totally see that point, but I didn't really meet them in the day, and I've of course at these conventions I've met Walter several times, just a wonderful guy. But there's a certain point where if you're really a great talent at whatever you do, you're going to leave that and find other work in a place that is paying you properly or whatnot. So I'm glad they clean up on the conventions. They make a lot. They make a lot of money. They lot. Like Saban's probably going to go after them and say, "Where's my cut?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So how much freedom did you have, to make a lot of this Saban stuff and everything like that? Was he very strict on how he wanted it, or he's like, hey, kind of do what you want, we'll kind of take it from there, or maybe we'll take some stuff out, add some stuff, kind of thing? Like, how did that go?
He never really said anything except thank you, and you're doing great, and I really love what you're doing. That's it. He had no other involvement. His only rule was he didn't want 1 second of silence because he's collecting the royalties on it. So if there was a time where there was no music for a second, somebody told me he was in a mix, which he didn't ever really go to. He didn't have to, but he was in the mix. He goes, stop, hold on. Do you hear that? There's no music playing right now. Put something there. To a show he was reviewing, because to him that's just money he's not earning.
Wow.
So he was doing wall-to-wall scores.
Wow. You talked. I just want to jump back for a second. You talked about not being credited for the movie or being removed from the movie.
Yeah.
I've heard conflicting, I guess, reports, and maybe you could kind of set this straight. You were credited for the series, or did that take?
No, I'm credited as engineer.
Engineer. Okay, so I was confused on that. Can you walk us through that? Because you should have been credited as composer, right? Or
sure.
Yeah.
So back to Hans Zimmer. At no disrespect to him, I had a friend that was there for a while, and let's say Hans was nominated for an Academy Award on a score. And then suddenly a door in the long hallway at his office building in Santa Monica would open, and the guy who really scored the film would walk out and just say, "Nobody talk to me. I'm going home. I'll be back tomorrow." Because their names aren't going on stuff. And a guy named Snuffy Waldron, who I never worked with, which just had so many television shows with his name on it in the 80s and I think the 90s. He had a whole stable of people scoring for him, and their names weren't on it. It's pretty common. It's pretty common. It's intellectual property. It's the same thing if you're working for an airplane supplier parts, and you manufacture a magical new part. The company takes and owns everything, and their name's on it. There's just no credit. But yeah, I should have been credited, but no. It would have been nice. He could have done that, but he was also, Saban was very worried that if I met the network people, not that they'd bust him on it, or maybe, but he was worried somebody was going to say, "Hey, because that's how my whole career has gone since. Hey, we've got this project. Are you interested in submitting for it or working on it?" And once your name's out there, the phone just rings. So he was trying to kind of keep me hidden as best he could.
For the Power Rangers the movie, was it a whole new set of music, or was it basically the stuff that we got in the seasons and then like in the later seasons?
You mean for the first film?
Yeah.
Yeah, they hired a guy, I can't remember his name, to score it, who had done The Crow. I've never seen the film. And that guy actually didn't. Here's an example. That guy is under contract. His name will go on as composer, but he didn't have time to do it. He was working on something much bigger. I don't know what. So he had one of his guys score the film. So,
okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought you had said that you did score it all, and then they.
No. I got taken off the film before I ever had a chance to. It would have been a rock score if I did it. I mean, the budgets were set. Everything was locked in. It was a go, and everybody was happy.
That's really unfortunate. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Power Rangers the movie. Sounds good, looks good, all of it. I love it. But to hear some rock beat. I mean, Eric and I were just talking about this yesterday in preparation for the interview, and when he was like, "Man, I didn't realize how many bangers were in Power Rangers when it came to the songs," and it's the truth. Like you wrote some hella good music.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it went well. I have no complaints. It's too bad about the film, but at the same time, it's fine. It's fine.
I don't want to pick at a certain person, but do you think it was like an ego thing, or it was just company business thing, or like he really just thought that you were this secret that he had, like this secret weapon that he had that he didn't want anybody else to know about?
I think
and he just was like, "Nope, you're mine."
Yeah, my name was on it. I would have started getting calls by other companies immediately, and I would have said, "No writers, full writer's share. I'm going to be over here." So I just kind of, like I said, I asked him for a small percentage. He said no. I jumped without a safety net, and 2 weeks later, I was working on video games with this guy Bob Ezrin, who produced my favorite album. One of my favorite albums, produced The Wall with Pink Floyd. I mean, huge producer.
Whoa.
So
That's
I
amazing.
started with Tamagotchi.
Yeah,
Tamagotchi. Okay.
Ace Ventura and a couple Monty Python titles, and then they hooked me up with this guy John Anderson, the lead singer from a band called Yes, which I was sort of a fan of in the 70s. I spent 2 years with him doing indie records, but was only credited as engineer, not co-producer. But that's okay.
I love John Anderson, and I love
He's brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I spent 6-8 hours a day with him for 2 years while doing the games, and now commercials were starting to roll in. It was very busy and very diverse days. So you're going from this magical music to a Coca-Cola commercial or to the Dragonball Z score, or whatever was going on at the time, and then a game.
That's so crazy. So yeah, so there is let's just say rumors, I guess, that you know, some say that you didn't sing, some say that you did sing for the music for the original Power Rangers. Like, we need to know, like, did you sing those songs for Power Rangers?
Absolutely.
Hell yes. Let's go.
Yeah, that on the first theme, you know, when they said Fox loves it, my first question was, who are we going to get to sing it? Because I'd never really sung on anything. I'd given guide vocals, ideas to female singers. I worked primarily with gals because it was just, I don't know what it was. I never really met any male singer-songwriters that wanted to co-write on any level. So I just figured somebody else will sing it, and they said, no, it's done. So, and then it turned into songs shortly after the show exploded. They said, hey, want to do some songs? All right.
So that was you singing on all of them. The main theme, like "We Need a Hero," "Hope for the World." That's you on all of them.
Combat.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that.
Well, I'm sorry.
Everything.
Like, kudos to you, man. Because like I said, Joe said, like, I said, there are some bangers, man. Like, I mean, obviously we watch the show as kids and everything. We don't really realize this stuff and whatnot.
Yeah, sure.
But like, now that you kind of like absorb it, you think about it and everything, and you re-listen to it, and you just have this new appreciation for it. It's like, wow, this stuff was really, really good. Because then honestly, you only get, you know, snippets, you know, during the show. You don't get the full song and everything, so you don't get to hear it all. But man, they were great stuff. So yeah, kudos to you.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, and they've yeah, I'm happy with them. Most of them, almost all of them.
Most of
them. So you've had a very illustrious career. What is, or in your opinion, what was the hardest thing you've had to write or compose, as far as maybe like time restrictions, or just the, you know, the governance above you, or the, hey, we need it like this, and it just kept coming out a different way?
Well, usually I nail it, but I was doing stuff, like I was working for this company called DIC Entertainment, who owned CBS Saturday Morning around 99. So
yeah.
And that guy running that company is, you know, he's had success, but he's kind of a pain in the ass. So they'd come in with a show. Let's take Mummies Alive.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So a show. Well, I was doing that, and like this thing, Horseland and Sushi Pack, all these themes, which were kind of fun because they needed male vocals. I got to do all these different kinds of voices on them.
Yeah.
But I mean, on one of those shows, I remember I wrote like 27 themes, knowing damn good and well they were always going to go with the first one. The minimum I wrote was 5 or 6 themes, and then they would test market it, and they'd get kids in, and they'd always pick the first one because, you know, there's nothing like delivering your best and being told, well, let's try a different direction, or let's try this. So that was probably the most frustrating. As far as deadlines, I'm just used to that. I'm absolutely used to it, and they are excruciating. They keep, I wake up I'm back on a show I'd done 4 seasons of called The Thundermans for Nickelodeon.
Yes,
live action.
Yeah, my daughter watches that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's coming back. We're doing a new another season, another 26, and
that's so great.
The thing is, they want to modify the little cues, going out to commercial, coming in, which is correct. It should be, because it's now been 5 years later. But pay homage to the old stuff. But, we've been trying stuff, and because they're now shooting the show in Canada, the communication with the show creator is like crazy busy. And, he's having to Zoom all the time with all sorts of people in LA, I'm sure. So I tried the first batch and, understandably wasn't right. The second batch, totally understandably not right. Third batch thought kind of had it, but the network said no. So that's what I'm working on today is the fourth batch. But the show was, I think, supposed to mix in 2 days. So it's virtually impossible because I still don't know what the sound is going to be because of just the schedule. So that's not even frustrating, but that's an example of, I woke up at 5 this morning and said, all right, I do know this one scene I can score because of what they need. Then I'm going to start some other ideas and I'll get it. But man, we're running down. There's no way I can deliver in time. So they just moved it. They're going to have to move it.
Okay.
What do you, I'm sorry, Eric, I'm going to cut you off real quick. I know you have a question to ask. What do you need to know when you're going to score a project? Like, as amazing as all the Power Rangers music is, like
Sure.
they had to have told you something to kind of like know, okay, I want to do this sound. Like, what do you need to find your sound?
Well, it depends. Sometimes they'll say, we're thinking on kids shows, we're thinking Nickelodeon-ish, or they'll send an actual example of a couple songs they like. So I know about the energy level that they're comfortable with and what to do on stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's actually a little bit sometimes less freedom than it was back when, because X-Men and Power Rangers, they never said what to do. They just said, we need. So those just happen.
Did they say like it's going to be superheroes fighting monsters type of thing? And then
they said it's 5. It's a Japanese show, Heimbot. They're putting it together for a presentation and they need a theme. And maybe I saw a picture of it, maybe, or just a logo. Same with X-Men. I knew nothing. I saw nothing, just wrote it.
And you wrote one of the most iconic intros to a television show in history. That's fucking insane, and I love it.
Yeah,
dude, your new nickname is Houdini, Ron Houdini Wasserman. Because good Lord, like you said, like some of the most impressive opening themes to shows I've ever heard, and like you don't see that today. Like there's a few here and there, every once in a while, but like
it's rare.
Still remember to this day. It's mind-boggling. Honestly, it's crazy.
It's weird, but it just pours out all the time.
Yeah,
it just pours out. But now things have gotten. They're not worse. I mean, it's just now it's decision by committee. At least back then in those days, the buck stopped with Saban. It went straight to him, and he said, yeah. Or if he wasn't sure, he'd play it for his kids. And if they'd go, yeah, that's great. He'd go, I love it. which is good. I mean, he's running a huge corporation. He can't be constantly in touch with what's going on with every degree. He's got to trust certain people.
Absolutely. I mean, what better, audience to your own kids? Like if they don't like it, like, then you kind of know that, hey, it's not going to, bring in the audience and stuff like that. So let's go with something else. I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So, So we're talking about like some of your best music and stuff like that. Is there like a piece that you have done that you just spent so much time on, you absolutely loved it, you killed it and everything, but it was never actually used? Did that ever happen?
Yeah.
Huh?
I remember, and it's okay, but I remember I was submitting for The Office.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then I made it to the final 3 and then the final 2. And what they went with, I think, is brilliant. It was better than what I gave them. And then, but I don't know. And I have like 135 hard drives and 1,700 DVDs. I back up like crazy.
Yeah.
So much redundancy, but I don't know what happened to that thing. And it's probably because they hadn't named it The Office yet. So somewhere is probably a file sitting around with something called whatever NBC with a date on it, theme submission. So I don't know if I'll ever find that. And but another one called which I almost had was Parks and Recreation.
Oh yeah,
which would have been great. And that theme I recently recycled. Just the basics. I've got a lot of little twists and turns for, and then wrote 3 new themes for another NBC show, but I haven't heard anything back yet. And I think it's because of all these firings going on and restructuring. I don't know. Maybe the show isn't going to go. I have no idea.
Gotcha.
I have no idea. It's hard to tell because I'm not directly connected to it. So but no, I've had almost, and then stuff that doesn't get used, I'll throw it in libraries online and people license it. I've had that with a ton of commercials. I mean, I've had about 300 nationals, but there's probably another 300 or 400 files, bits of music that I just will throw them into different libraries over time, and then suddenly somebody uses it.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What made you make the decision several years ago to remaster your music and re-release it?
I had a little bit of time and I wanted to see if I could still sing that stuff because it was 2012, I think, and it had been, 20 years or a little under. I wasn't sure I could hit that. So I just put up, I just quickly banged out a file with the chorus for the theme. And I said, fuck, I sound exactly the same. All right, now let me try it with the verse. And I went, all right, now I'll recut the theme. And when I finished that, minus the guitar solos, I brought in this guy, Mark Riccardi, to play most of those solos. He's just we did them all in one day. He's that fast.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then I said, well, the original Rock Adventure album was supposed to be all just songs, but they were getting scared because of all the kids that supposedly were beating the hell out of each other. Not bad parenting. It was my music.
So
So we turned, I had to put all the dialogue all over everything, which was not an easy task. And so I did that. So I went, well, it never came out by itself. So I'll just kind of recut everything I'm permitted to. So essentially, I'm covering those songs, meaning it'd be like me doing a Metallica song. You do that, you fill out a license for almost nothing so that their publishing company and everybody knows. And that's what I did on this. I just recut the stuff for fun. I covered myself.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. So it became a labor of love.
It's funny that you bring up Metallica because they've actually played your song on stage, which is pretty cool.
I've heard, but I've never seen.
I think there's a YouTube video or so. At least I thought it was Metallica, right?
I don't know. I haven't heard enough to know, but somebody recently took one of my songs and used AI to replace my voice in a verse with James Hetfield. And I have to say, it fell apart, but for the verse, it really did sound like him. That's pretty freaking amazing. But who knows? Yeah. I mean, I was offered, I don't like performing live, even though I've done it a million times. But yeah, I was offered to open for them doing the Power Rangers stuff because that album was still so big. But Saban turned it down in my behalf, which I'm thankful for. But at least they could have asked me instead of, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, too many people would have seen me, started talking.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Would have pulled you away.
Yeah, it could have gone away.
Yeah. I just want to touch on this quickly. We haven't really touched on this, but you had mentioned it earlier. I'm curious, how did you come about the gig on doing Dragon Ball Z? Like that, like me personally, like I grew up with that. I am a huge fan of that when I was a kid and now. But I just recently learned that you were the one behind the English version of the original song and everything. Like, how did that come about?
No, not that. I didn't do the theme on that. Fact is,
I
never heard the theme on that because on my copy, I had left Saban.
Okay.
But they said, hey, we have this show that nobody cares about, and we'll pay you X amount. I could score it at home. I did it with a VHS player. It was a little, and they just said nobody cares. And so I watched it. And I said, I'm going to do these also because it's very hard to stop and do a lot of twists and turns. I'm just going to do these giant swelling things, long takes. And I turned in the first one and they said, great, well, I'll have another one for you next week. And I went, okay. But when where the theme is for that first year, it just said, it's a black screen and said theme. So I didn't even know what key it was in. So, and I don't think there was any way for me to watch it. It certainly wasn't airing on, my television with an antenna at my apartment. I didn't even know the show was big till 2010. Somebody wrote me about it and said it's a cult classic. And I said, well, I had no idea.
Wow. So you just went just completely blank, had no idea, just here, this is what I'm going to make. This is what I want. And boom, and they took it.
And I think really had anybody gotten overly involved with it and said, here's a million notes, I would have said, give it to one of the guys at Saban. I don't need it. I don't want to do it. I'm not in the mood for notes on this. I like what I'm doing on it. And I love that show. Love it.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah.
That warms my heart, honestly.
Loved.
Oh my!
But there was no merchandise. I never saw anything in stores, so I just kind of delivered him. For all I knew, it was going direct to home video. I had no idea. I don't know where it aired when it came out.
Yep. Yeah, it was super exclusive. It was hard to find until all of a sudden, like Cartoon Network kind of got it and threw it out there, and from there it just kind of blew up and became the phenomenon that it is and stuff like that. But like that theme, man, is huge.
The theme is great.
It
awesome. Sounds almost like this guy Jeremy Sweet, but I don't think he could have pulled it off. And I hadn't seen him forever. It almost sounds like, but I don't know. I don't know who wrote the thing. I don't know who's credited. Now, if Saban's name is on it, then clearly Saban's responsible for the theme, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
They may have said, we have a theme, we'll pop it in at the final mix because there's no reason for me to see it. And just do the score and sound effects and we'll pay you X amount.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you have obviously Joe, what are you gonna say?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I just exhaled all this. Sorry.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you were gonna say something. So obviously you're most recognizable for these 90s shows and stuff like that, X-Men, Power Rangers and all that stuff. And how does that make you feel that like people like resonate to these shows and these music so much that like it makes these shows as a whole so incredible.
Oh, it's just a remarkable honor, and how lucky I am to have gone from, obscurity and poverty to, not that I made a bunch off that, but at least got out of poverty, but obscurity to, contributing something that has affected people's lives. And the most touching stuff were always the kids who were in abusive homes, and the music was part of what got them through the day, or they were listening to it and watching it, gave them enough energy to get through another day. So that's kind of great to be associated with that in any way. And I have no ego whatsoever about anything I've ever done. So it's just simply flattering. I'm just looking forward all the time. Next project, what am I going to write for this? And if ever my brain burns out and I can't do that, I'm fucked. I'm fucked.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I mean, I'll have to find something else to occupy the day, but I don't know what it'll be. I was just looking at some plants I put in the front of the house, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, guys. I fucking killed you. I did everything by the book. I watched the YouTube video, but I apparently drowned them.
I love that. I love it. All right. We're starting to wrap up here because we've gone almost an hour and we don't want to keep you any longer. You were talking about just making this and then putting blinders onto the next project. You had no idea about the success of some of these shows. When did you find out that you had worked on some of the biggest shows in history? Like, when
Power Rangers was fairly obvious because they had a live show at Universal Studios, and I didn't live that far from it. And luckily, out of the kindness of their heart, they gave my girlfriend and I a ticket to go to the event. They sat me way in the back off to the side. But I remember being in there, and I don't know, there's 10,000 people in there, and that theme started, and they were all singing it. And I went, this is a big deal. The show's only been out a few months.
Yeah.
And so I always knew that one was big. X-Men, I knew some of them aired. That really didn't, it was really around, it was the late 2000s when people started writing saying, just found out you worked on Dragonball Z. I'm like, I think I remember that. Like Goku, I'm like, oh yeah, I like that. I think I probably said, what, you find an old VHS? They're like, no, it's huge. I'm like, oh, cool. Because my days up until June of 2018 were intense. Work days, very long, constant.
Yeah. I gotta say, I think that your music helped make some of these shows, specifically Power Rangers, X-Men.
Power Rangers for sure. If it had been an orchestral score, it just would have been weak.
It would have been missing something for sure. I definitely think the music added to that iconic status for sure. And I honestly believe that maybe not in every case, but in a lot of today's current movies, it just seems like it's all shit out of a giant machine. It seems like there's a lot of that creativity, that passion. It just seems like it's an assembly line. We got to have this actor and this, boy loves girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's story, but it's kind of a lame story. It's like it's the story we've heard 1,000 times.
It's the same stuff.
It's the same stuff, and even with a lot of the music, it's like if you've seen one film, I feel like you've heard them all. And again, just more so recently, probably in the past 5 or 10 years. Do I think that it's gotten so bad? But I say that to say that your music it's different, but not different negative, different like amazing.
Well, everything's sincere and came from my heart. I mean, all those songs like, I mean, I'm not just some studio guy reading lyrics. I wrote that stuff, and the viciousness and that angst in my voice was real. I mean, in the studio, I was being a fucking rock star with myself, but the songs are all true, and you follow that stuff. Fight is about fighting out of poverty. Combat is about getting out of poverty. The other things, and then going to more positive things. I Will Win was about, I've just about had it here. I'm going to win. I'm going to make it in this business without you, Saban. And Cross My Line was about that film, taking the film away. Everything has a story connected to it. Everything, except like, White Ranger Tiger Power. That's just a fucking White Ranger Tiger Power. When people wanted me to recut, and I said, I'm sorry. And I know it was fine then, and there's no meaning behind it, but I'm not recutting a song that has white power anywhere in the same song. I'm just not doing it, because somebody's going to edit it and it's going to just say white power.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh my God.
So quickly here to wrap up, I want you bringing it back to the beginning. You talked about knowing Walter and stuff. I just want to go through quickly. This is a little bit of a rapid fire. You can take as little or as long as you want, or you can say don't know him, never met him, whatever. I'm going to rattle off a few of the cast from Power Rangers. Let us know, and however long you want, of what you think of them. Austin St. John.
Met him briefly once. Seems like of big ego at the time. Very big ego. A little stuck on himself, I always thought.
Okay. Walter,
who again, we're going later on because I only met him initially. Walter, wonderful, friendly. The guy hasn't aged. God bless him. Still does his own backflips and stuff. Always has a smile on his face. Doll.
David Yost.
Met him after I did the 30-year reunion. Very nice guy, very positive, friendly. Seems like a good guy.
Jason David Frank.
First time I met him was on the set for a thing called Shattered Grid, maybe 8 years ago, which was a short film. He had no idea I'd even written the theme. He always thought it was Haim Saban. Super nice guy. We would chat every break. He was just kind and nice and confident and seemed very focused on his craft. Saw him a few months before he died at a convention, and he did not look, my vibe was, just got the energy that something was off. He didn't look himself.
Yeah.
Wow. Amy Jo.
Worked with her once in the studio. She wanted to sing a song, but she couldn't do it because she was having an off night, and I think they dropped the song afterwards. But she was nice, but there was no real connection there. I mean, as far as we work on the same show. I was a guy pushing the buttons for her to record. That was it.
Gotcha.
Twee Train.
Never met her.
Yeah, probably.
Except there was one time they came into my studio because it was soundproof to figure out what they were going to go in and ask for. Obviously, they were going in and asking for more money. And so, they were pretty worked up about that. That's probably the only time. I don't remember ever seeing her other than that.
David Fielding, Zordon.
Never met him.
Jason Narvi. I guess I should say Paul Scheer and Jason.
Paul and Jason are the best. I mean, we hung out then. They'd come in the studio just to fuck with me all the time. And then they were going to have their own spin-off. So we started talking about it. I said, well, your theme is like, it's the big tuba for you because you're fat, and the little squeaky muted trumpet for you because you're, the little skinny guy. So I said, we've got to build off of that. So they were getting very excited. And I don't know if any script was written. I don't know if Fox just said, no, we're not interested. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. They should have their own show. But they're wonderful.
Awesome. I love that. That's it for me. Ron, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time
Oh,
to
of
come
course.
here.
Thank you guys.
It's been a pleasure. Truthfully, it's been a pleasure. It's been hilarious. I feel like we could sit with you for another hour easily, but I know you have a deadline. Eric, before we get out of here, anything you would like to say or ask?
Just thank you. Thank you for all the memories that you helped create, and honestly, just make my childhood just absolutely wonderful, because some of the stuff that you have done is some of my fondest memories for shows that I have watched. And it's just been an honor to actually talk to you and pick your brain and kind of hear some of the behind the scenes kind of things. And it's just, I never thought the day would come, but just, thank you. And just keep it up. You do great work.
You're very welcome, and thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And then, Ron, is there any convention or project that you would like to plug that you're going to be appearing at, or something of that nature?
No, fact is, I've got to let people know. No, I really can't. I can't leave my cat box now until the end of March, possibly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
April.
Holy
That's it. I think I have seven days clear for Christmas. That's it. Wow. Other than that, I have to be around when I'm under contract with a show. They own my ass, and I'm happy. I'm perfectly fine with it. But they could call me at 10 at night and say, "Hey, we have a thing coming in, or we need this for the set. Can you do it tonight?" So I don't wander too far at all.
Wow.
Well, makes this interview
hopefully
more
they
special,
just don't
honestly.
do it after I've had too many bourbons at 11 o'clock. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. I could do that. Fuck yeah. I'll have it to you in a minute.
I love that. Well, Ron, thank you again so much. It has truly been a great pleasure and an honor to talk to you. You seem like such a nice guy. We wish you all the success and all the best, because you truly deserve it. All the listeners with attitude, thank you guys for tuning in. Follow Ron on social medias and look up his music if you for some reason don't know what it is. It's amazing. And until next time, guys, take care of yourselves and each other. And as always, embrace the attitude.
Embrace the attitude.
Bye, guys.